Welcome to the SMB Community Podcast with hosts Amy Babinchak, James Kernan, and Carl Polachek. Produced by Kernan Consulting and for the international MSP community. We are dedicated to making every IT professional a successful IT professional. Hey everybody, welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I'm here with my good friend Amy Babinchak. Hey Amy, welcome.
Hey James.
Yep, good to see you. Happy Monday. You enjoying the slight weather change that's happening here in the United States? It seems like everybody's getting better weather.
It's warming up, yeah. It's going to be in the 40s, I guess, which is starting to melt our snow off, which doesn't make me happy, but makes a lot of other people happy.
It's melting in a hurry. So I was out of town tail end of last week. So Wednesday night, it was minus 15 degrees in Nebraska. I left town and came back, and it was, I think, 58 when I got home last night. So all the snow will probably melt this week. It'll be in the 50s and low 60s, at least here in Nebraska. So,
oh, that's right. You were going snowmobiling. You still have skin on your face, so.
Yeah, I survived. I'm a little sore, admitted, but went with a group of guys up in the Black Hills, and it was actually warmer up there, believe it or not, than it was in Nebraska. It was a lot warmer.
I bet, yeah.
Epic sledding, a lot of fun up there for 4 days. But first day went 93 miles, and then a lot lighter day the second day, about 41 miles. So fun times. But it's good to be back, and I'm glad that that sun is out. Looking forward to a busy week.
93 miles is a lot.
It was.
Yeah, no wonder you're sore.
Yeah. I didn't realize we went that far until the end of the day when I couldn't move. So hey, what have you been up to? I think you just got back from speaking at an event. How did that go?
I did. It was a really good event. It was the M365 Community Days, which is an international event. It's a volunteer group. And so what I wanted to say about that is there's about 50 people. So it was, one of those small events that you and I talk about liking.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mainly mid-market internal IT with a few MSPs at it. And that means that these events are great opportunities for MSPs because they've got an audience for co-managed sitting all in that room. And at lunch, I found myself, it was just little table, 3 of us sitting at it. 2 people sat down with me, right? We talked about, sitting in an empty space and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
People sat down with me. One was the IT director of the Chamber of Commerce for Grand Rapids, which is our second largest city in Michigan, maybe our largest city now. It's neck and neck with Detroit.
Yeah.
And then the other person that sat down was the internal IT person for the tourism and something bureau. I forget what the exact name is, but
yeah,
2 people that if you were an MSP over in that area, you would want to know.
Right.
You would have great opportunities to introduce you to local businesses.
Mm. Yeah. And they both came and sat next to you, right?
Yep. It was lunch was immediately after my session, so it's nice. So they came right over, and yeah, if I still had my MSP, I would have been pressing them to book me for more gigs.
Yeah,
because they have their customers are my customers. Right.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's good stuff. So, hey, we've got a lot to chat about. Let me kind of dig into the agenda. The MSP question of the week. Here's an interesting one that came in. It said, are MSPs finding success with offshore resources? It was really a question around, what's best, trying to hire local people or offshore people, and is this working? So do you have any experience with that, or what are you seeing out there?
I don't have any experience with it, but hear a lot of people talking about it. What I don't hear is a lot of success stories, though.
Hmm.
Now, I hear success stories around personal assistance, admin assistance, that kind of thing, but I've yet to hear a lot of success stories around technical assistance, maybe replacing or augmenting your technical staff with people overseas. I have not heard a lot of success stories on that, so I'm going to say local is better,
Yeah.
even though there's a lot of hype around outsourcing for sure.
Yeah, there is a lot of hype. I would have historically agreed with you. I've been in the channel for a long time, and I've seen a lot of people struggle throughout the years trying to hire offshore people. But as of late, I'd just say post COVID, I've seen more and more MSPs. We're having a lot of success with it, I guess, inside the our mastermind peer groups, that community, and hearing more and more success stories. So it's interesting, offshoring or outsourcing, they're different. Offshoring is more of you hiring a person offshore individually. Outsourcing is you using a third party company. If somebody's new to it and you haven't done it, I would outsource for sure. Going through a third party company typically costs you a little bit more money, but the management and, you know, the how to do, I think, is important until you become more successful with it. But it's interesting. MSPs historically have had really a hard time hiring great technical resources. You know, finding them first of all, and then getting them and keeping them. When you have that hired gun, they're hard to keep. But offshoring really opens up lots of advantages like cost savings for sure, access access to a whole new talent pool, and then scalability. If you're growing quickly, it's an advantage for sure, but it does have those disadvantages like communication issues, security risks, and then the cultural differences are something a lot of people don't know how to deal with. The the I agree with you. I like building my teams locally or with resources in our culture and community. If you're a national or international firm, offshoring is much more popular, but leverage someone who's done it before and use that third party partner, I think would be my advice. But don't be afraid of it. I'm hearing more and more success stories about it. So I thought that was an interesting question that came in.
Mhm.
So, so
Yeah,
thanks for sharing.
yeah, I'd like to hear from our listeners their offshoring successes, their outsourcing successes, either one. And what firms are you having success with? 'Cause that would be interesting to know. I'm sure there's a great variation out there.
Yeah, we had a real quick. I won't share too much on this because it's some of it's confidential. But the I actually had one of the new mastermind members that joined our group probably 4 years ago get up and share his success because it was it was huge. And he, like most all of us, have really struggled with hiring really good people locally. Building your team and and then sustaining that. And he had this was probably back 15, 12 to 15 years ago. He had bought this company um, from another party. He had grown it to a certain point, and then there's some other strong personalities in the business. Well, a couple of the people in the business, it was almost like a mutiny where a couple of them wanted to leave, take business with them, and take some employees, and it created a huge loss in revenue, a sour taste in his mouth, and it was almost to the point where he was ready to tap out. And he kind of threw a Hail Mary, ended up finding or forming a relationship with an outsourced partner that had a presence in Central America. And when you think of it, Central America is in the same time zone as the Eastern Seaboard for the United States. So it's not like, the Philippines or some of the other ones that people are familiar with. Anyway, he's built back up his company and grown, almost threefold from where it was. And he swears by it. He's like the bulk of his team, his whole leadership team, his salespeople, strong technical people. Now he has a handful of field people that are in the United States, but the overwhelming, like 80% of his workforce is in Central America, and uh, he's just having great success with it. So I just wanted to share that. Now that's unique, and it's so unique. I had him get up and share, at one of the conferences because I just thought that was really cool what happened to those guys. So
Yeah, that's a great example. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah. So we got lots of stuff to talk about in the news as well. So Apple was back in the news for a couple things, but this first one I thought was super unique. That it was announced that they are hiring 20,000 U.S. Research and development workers over the next 4 years. They're really going to focus on the AI market, and they want to build this here domestically. And anyway, it's $500 billion are going into this investment. It looks like Houston, Texas, is going to be a lucky recipient of a lot of that jobs. And I remember reading something that they're going to put maybe a plant or supplier plant in Michigan as well, in your backyard. So I thought that was
Yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. The thing they're putting into Michigan is manufacturing research.
Okay.
So it's going to be a lot of engineers. It's going to be training people up, and really, you can't just onshore manufacturing if the manufacturing doesn't exist here.
Right.
We certainly have plenty of engineers and manufacturing design folks and all of that here. So makes sense for Apple to bring that to Michigan. So they'll be working to figure out how to modernize our manufacturing in the United States to be able to produce more products like this.
Yeah.
I thought this is strategic politically too on Apple's
Mhm.
part, right? There was that $100 billion announcement from Sam Altman, right? He put together a coalition of people and got that announcement on day one of the presidency. And he and Elon Musk have a very cantankerous relationship. So they're each, trying to get their side. And the big one that noticeable that was absent in all of that was Apple.
Apple. Yeah.
And if people were like, "Uh-oh, Apple's on the outs," they aren't snuggling up to the new administration like we were kind of seeing all the tech companies lining up to do. And then
Mhm.
this announcement hits, and it's typical Apple. They
Mhm.
do things their own way. They do things independently, and they always tend to do them really well. So this is good news. It's going to
Yeah.
build another data center
Mhm.
down in Texas, but in Houston, not in Austin, which is where
Yeah, kind of the
Apple
tech hub. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Apple has all their stuff in Austin right now, and but they're gonna put a new one in Houston, which is interesting. So I wonder what sort of
Yeah.
resources Houston has that they're looking to tap into there.
And obviously, week over week, we talk a lot about AI and what's going on. And just like Amy said, Apple's been mysteriously quiet. And all of a sudden, from left field, they announced this huge announcement. I'm really excited. Love the United States, and I love seeing, more money and more jobs being created here in the United States. But back to your point, I love where they're doing it. Michigan was hit so hard with the automobile industry, and seeing a lot of research and development and jobs being created in the state of Michigan makes me happy. And then also Houston, Texas. They've been adversely affected as well with all the oil drilling, going offshore, and people that industry's been depressed for years, and it's kind of gone up and down based on administration changes. So really happy for Houston. That's a depressed market that hopefully will feel the benefits and continue to grow. So happy to see that.
Mhm.
So we've got Ninja One made a major
Mm.
announcement. I don't know if you saw that as well, but they secured 500 million in funding from some growth funds. Look like three different funds contributed to that 500 million investment. They also reached a $5 billion valuation. I remember when Ninja One kind of came on the scene, they
Mhm.
were really a nobody, but you and I have talked again on and off about Ninja One's success and how they've, really secured market share. They're growing like crazy, and I'm excited to see that happen to Ninja One. It sounds like that money's going to be used for expansion and growth. So good for those guys.
Yeah, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
5 we just talked about 500 billion from Apple, but that's Apple.
Right.
500 million for Ninja One is probably actually a bigger number,
Yeah.
percentage-wise. So
Yeah.
that's huge. And we've seen Ninja One just rocketing up the largest company list, and this is gonna put them right up there. They're definitely a player that Kaseya and ConnectWise need to watch out for.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been talking about them and kind of following their growth, but they're certainly the channel sweetheart right now, and the market loves those guys. So keep an eye on Ninja One. Um, and then a couple other things real quick. You and I'd already chatted a little bit. I don't know how excited most people are going to be about this, but looks like back in the news was Apple again with that iPhone announcement of $599, which sounds like it's $200 less than the iPhone 16. But they've trying to go in and attack a different part of the market. So looks like February 28th, they've announced the iPhone 16e for a starting price of $599. So I
Yeah,
know you're an Apple fan.
I am, and I have the high-end phone, as a lot of people do. Apple hasn't updated their entry level, their lowest offering in many, many, many years.
Mhm.
So I'm glad to see that they're reinvesting in that, because I think they lost their direction a little bit, right? You need to give an entry point for people to go in to buy your product, to make it competitive with the others, and you know, then they might see the value of the Apple network and begin to move up through the ecosystem. So I think
Right.
this is good news. I'm glad to see an update on that phone.
Yeah. And then I'm dying for you to share what I think both of us kind of giggled about, but HP was in the news. What did you hear about HP?
This totally made my day. I hope it makes the day for our listeners too, because somebody finally told us the truth. HP announced, drum roll, brrr, HP announced that they will no longer be making you wait for 15 minutes on a customer service call. They had a policy to, that message every it's when we get to talk about HP because they just admitted to it. But every business you call today says, "Oh, we're experiencing a larger than normal call volume.
Right.
Please hold." HP had a policy of 15 minutes of hold time before they would talk to you, even if there was no other caller there. And they did
Wow.
that to try to drive you away, to drive you to their chatbot, to drive you to their website, to make you use other resources. And we know that all the businesses out there are doing the same thing. So now that this is out in the open, admitted to by HP, and they're getting rid of it, I really hope that this is means that all these other companies are going to get rid of it too.
Yeah.
Because now we know you're intentionally alienating your customers with that message.
Yeah. Yeah. They're, and I would, imagine, like you'd hinted about, they're people like following the path of least resistance, and I'm looking for an easy answer. I'm going to sit on the help desk call, but if it's going to take too long, then they're going to go to the chat bot like you talked about, or the website, self-service. And I get all of that, but that's interesting that they were completely honest and transparent about that. Good for HP,
Good
right?
for HP. Now we need everybody else to step up
They
too.
admit it.
Please, please do.
Yeah, it'll save us hours and hours of waiting,
Oh,
right?
man.
The 5 Minutes with a Smart Person is brought to you by Kernan Consulting, your M&A experts. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SMB Community Podcast. This is James Kernan with Kernan Consulting, and I am here and really excited to talk to a good friend of mine, Mr. Ken Miller. Ken, say hello to everybody.
Good morning to everyone.
Hey, I'm really excited. Ken, one, he's one of the most successful people you'll meet, but more importantly, he's a great guy, big heart, always gives back to the community. Love that about him. But we're here today to really talk about AI and what AI is doing, not only in the technology channel, but with some new businesses that he's got going. But a quick introduction of Ken. He's a speaker, an author, entrepreneur. He owns and runs 5 different successful businesses. I met Ken in a nonprofit project. He's been involved in nonprofits for a long time as well, but very successful in the business world. So I had to say all that because Ken is also one of the most humble men, and he won't brag about himself. So I'll have to do that for him. But Ken, welcome again.
Thank you, James. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast or this meeting, and look forward to talking about some AI.
Yeah. So without going in too much detail with your background, you and I have recently reconnected, and you're a fellow speaker. I know you're out at events all the time, but tell me, the business unit I want to talk about is one of your new businesses from last year. It's called Aviation. So AI, Lution, Aviolution, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Evolution. Yeah. Let's say evolution.
Evolution. See, you're a natural here. It's still a tongue twister for me. I love the name because it's obviously AI and also VAs, but tell everybody a little bit about your new business.
So let's talk about the name first. So it's
Yeah.
AI, VA, Lucian. And what it is it's a mixture of artificial intelligence, virtual assistance, solution, and it also plays on evolution because it literally is the evolution of especially SMBs. And how do you utilize two of the best resources to force multiply the effectiveness of your business? It's real simple in a nutshell. And so we use artificial intelligence and we use offshore virtual assistants to solve for internal and sometimes external challenges or concerns that a business owner may have. Yep. That's a little nutshell.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. 'Cause we've had conversations about this, and on the podcast we talk about AI all the time, and in the importance of training your team on AI. And Ken, honestly, I will say you're one of the first staffing organizations that I see are training up your team on the AI tools and then bringing that to market. So I'm impressed with that. So tell everybody a little bit. So you've got offshore team members, and is it just VAs, or do you have other skill sets? Bookkeepers, project managers, sales or marketing people. Elaborate on the staff that you have available.
So we have staff in two areas. We have virtual assistants in the Philippines, and we also have virtual assistants in West Africa.
Okay.
They are then divided into really three different groups. We have virtual assistants that are predominantly based on tasks. We have virtual assistants. So you have a task that you want. I want to respond to request for proposals to speak. And for 20 hours, you'll hire one of our VAs that are trained in artificial intelligence to produce good RFPs so that they are tailored to the conference or the association. but that's a task. So we have task VAs. Then we have what are called enterprise virtual assistants. And there are more what we would call like an executive virtual assistant that do a multitude of tasks that are identified by the client for that company or that individual. A lot of times we work with the CEOs or top staff members that need a virtual assistant that is trained in artificial intelligence. And we'll talk a little bit more about what does that mean to be trained in artificial intelligence. And then the third group are probably the highest level, which are the agentic and task automation virtual assistants. So there are individuals that we have both in West Africa and the Philippines that can program to solve for a problem that you have in the company, whether it's a workforce or workflow automation, or it's a specific task that's internal to your system. They can do the programming in what we call N8N or make.com or Python or JSON and come up with a unique solution to the problem or the challenge that you're having. So those are the three different groups of virtual assistants, but they're all trained in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I know our listeners are wanting to ask this question because it popped in my head as well. Now, normally when you have offshore people, do they work US hours or do they work their hours or both? Whatever you want.
Great question. So what we have is predominantly, I'll use Philippines, for example. That's the majority of our VAs are in the Philippines. It's a 14-hour difference. So being that's a 14-hour difference from Pacific time, which means that when I meet with them, usually like at 4 p.m., if I have to meet with them or as the team, and then they work, that's their 8 o'clock in the morning for them. And they usually work an 8-hour day. But when you hire, usually you can hire 20 or 40. So there are 14. But then we also have, I think right now we have 2 or 3 of our VAs that are night VAs, which means they work nights so that they can make calls and or do whatever needs to be done during the day for a specific client that are need and utilize those services. So we have night ones and we have day ones.
Got it. Okay, good, good. Yeah, I love that. So let's talk a little bit about how you train your team. This isn't a little 15-minute class on how to use Chat GPT and then they're done. Without disclosing your complete secret sauce, because you walked me through the platform now and my eyes popped out of my head. It very, very impressive. Help people understand the I guess the magnitude of the training and what that looks like.
Right, because that's one of the big problems with individuals that have hired VAs in the past,
Yeah.
is that the individuals aren't trained. They just put out a shingle, say, "Hey, I'm a VA, offshore or onshore, either one."
Mhm.
And my question when I started the company was, what makes you a best practices virtual assistant? And so what I created was literally a curriculum for both AI and virtual assistant. So for virtual assistant, a lot of times there's a very specific person that I use. Aaron Booth has phenomenal videos in YouTube. And I say you have to do these 5 YouTube videos of Aaron Booth. And then for the artificial intelligence, I've engaged with a company and literally I have paid for each of our VAs to go through a school that is with a group called AI Foundations. And in that school, they will learn what you are probably most familiar with, which is LLMs. So Chat GPT, Gemini, Perplexity, great.
Yep.
They'll learn that. They'll learn AI image. They'll learn AI video. They'll learn AI audio, and very specifically for a select few, they will learn task automation and programming in a program we called N8N, which is the cutting edge um, programming for agents and for task automation. And then there's specific vertical markets that they're trained in AI, in sales, in marketing, in business, and with that training, and remember, they're trained, we pay for that. And we have trained them. So now they are AI trained virtual assistants offshore.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great overview because you hit all the key points I wanted to make sure that you hit, because I was blown away, not at the size of the school, but all the different certifications that you can go through based on what tasks you're supposed to do for that business. So, it was the most comprehensive I've ever seen. So that was very, very impressive. So I know people are wondering, Ken, that you've started this, you've launched this business, it's really taking off. Um, if they want to get in touch with you guys and they want to learn more about your business, or they want to hire someone, or they need your help, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way to connect with you and your firm?
Well, number one, you can go to the website, and that is www.avolution.com, AIVALUTION.com.
Okay.
And then if you want to talk directly with me, I own the business. I am the CEO. Feel free, ken@avolution.com. Send me an email. Let me know what your questions, concerns, thoughts are. And then if you're still interested, you would just sign up on the website and they'll start the onboarding process.
But yeah. And if you want to hear more from Ken, besides reaching out to him, I've twisted his arm and begged him to come speak at the next Mastermind Live event down in Dallas, Texas. Uh, it looks like that's March 27th and 28th. So, Ken, we're looking forward to hosting you there as well. And I'd love to get you back on the program and talk more. There's so many interesting things about you as a human being. You've had some life experiences that are just transformational and inspiring. We didn't get a chance to dig into that, but we'll do that next time. So thanks again for being on the program.
Thank you for having the ability to be on the program. Thank you, James. You're a friend and also someone I admire and what you've accomplished.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, cool. Well, anything else coming up for you here in March, April timeframe?
I'm going to be guest on a couple of different podcasts, and I'll tell you guys about those when they get published, so you can listen to me talk even more.
Exciting. Good, good, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got I was going to try to make the exchange event in Orlando, but I'm going to skip that one. I'm busy enough where I didn't want to take that time out of the office, but I'm going to be in Dallas, Texas, the end of March. So looking forward to that. I'm speaking at the Mastermind Live event. A lot of M&A talk, business growth. That should be a fun event. March 27th and 28th. So in Dallas, Texas. So that's my next trip. Looking forward to that. All right. All right. Well, great conversation today, Amy. Thank you as always. Love you sharing your wisdom with everybody. And until next time, sayonara. Thank you for tuning in to the SMB Community Podcast. If you found this interesting or fun, please subscribe, share with your friends, and give us a thumbs up on your favorite social media. We would love to hear from you, so reach out anytime on the website at smbcommunitypodcast.com.